Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons, where we try to take a darker tone with all the things we do and try and really focus in on what makes a character or class fun to play and really build on those kinds of themes. So if you like what we do here, please like, share, subscribe. Please keep commenting. We love interacting with you guys and hearing some of the great things you've come up with, some of the classes you've played, and some of the awesome things your DM lets you do. So without further preamble, let's jump right into this week's video, the Mastermind Rogue. The Mastermind Rogue comes to us from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. This rogue is, in my opinion, very well suited for a roleplay heavy campaign. I say this because in campaigns where you're going to do a lot of talking to powerful entities, deities, nobles, whatever it may be, this rogue is best suited for those kinds of scenarios. Understand that if you feel differently, that's more than welcome and greatly appreciated. I've seen this in a lot of campaigns that are very combat heavy, and a lot of people have really enjoyed playing it. The strengths of the rogue are not diminished. So you will always have sneak attack, so you will be valuable. You will always have your skill proficiency, so your adventuring things will be there and prepared for you, so you'll never feel like you're less subpar than what a rogue's basic abilities are. But this takes a more direct and important approach to speaking and being involved in very dangerous social scenarios, which is great, and it can be really, really exciting, especially if you're a role player kind of player, where your character comes first. At level 3, your first ability is Master of Intrigue. When you choose this archetype at 3rd level, you gain proficiency with Disguise Kit, the Forgery Kit, and 1 gaming set of your choice. You learn 2 languages of your choice. Additionally, you can unerringly mimic the speech patterns and accent of a creature that you hear speak for at least 1 minute, enabling you to pass yourself off as a native speaker of a particular land, provided you know the language. This is one of those abilities that the more creative you are, the more benefit you'll gain from it. If you're in a scenario where, say, there's some nobles coming from a distant dynasty, and you know that they're going to enter the kingdom, and you want to get in there for whatever reasons you have and pass your party along, it's a great way to talk to one of their emissaries, one of their guards who are hanging out in a tavern or whatever. Learn who they are as far as surface talking, so you can gain that 1 minute you need. And now you can just dress yourself up like them and then try and sneak you and your party in and have that be your verifying attribute that you speak like they do from that area. It's, again, a roleplay heavy ability, so understand that this works very well if you're going to be gutsy and a little bit more confident in your character. Languages really get this undertone to it that it's not as useful as possible, but you're in a scenario where, say, like a troop of dwarves are coming into an area, or orcs or something, and you manage to be able to look like one of them, right? You can pass yourself off by speaking that different language initially when you're doing that conversation. If you're a DM, I suggest paying attention to things like that, because if they come up to you and they're speaking a language and those guards don't know that, it's a great first impression to believe that they're saying is true, that they're from that area or whatever it is. That forgery kit can forge letters saying that you are welcome to come to the castle to go do a perimeter and very well understand the plot of how you're entering the castle in order to be safe from any opposing enemies, things like that. Again, the more creative you are, the more use you'll get out of this. At 3rd level, you also gain access to Master of Tactics. You can use the help action as a bonus action. Additionally, when you use the help action to aid an ally in attacking a creature, the target of that attack can be within 30 feet of you rather than 5 feet of you, if the target can see or hear you. The premise is that you're making some sort of loud sound or distracting, or maybe you're taunting or whatever it might be to that specific creature. This is great, especially if you're very aware of your party's composition. If you have barbarians or half-orcs or fighters or something that's really going to get that big crit in, paladins, things like that, this is a great use. This does steer you into a very particular kind of rogue. This makes you want to be more of a ranged rogue. So that way you don't have to worry too much about balancing this with your cunning action, your disengage, your hide. Because you should be staying ranged and using this to help your parties hit. Because obviously the more hits you get, the quicker the enemies will go down, the more successful you'll be in combat. This help action is fantastic in combat. Also, understand that this does dictate who you look like. So maybe you're not running up behind somebody with a knife or a sword or something like that and getting that sneak attack damage. You will get it from ranged attacks, which is great, gives you a little bit more viability. A lot of rogues go that way anyway. But this also kind of sets you up with this premise that you're a leader. You're someone who knows something about combat and someone who should be adhered to. You pick your target, you're calling it out in order to direct other people to take those shots. There's a certain responsibility to that, and you can play into that and really build your character up as someone who knows what they're doing. Like, you're like a super spy. You're like James Bond, like Mission Impossible. Like, you're that kind of a spy, because you can do these things, because you can direct people, because you can lead a team. And that's something you don't really get with rogues, and I think you should really take interest and at least look at that as a possibility with what you can do with this character. At 9th level, you gain access to Insightful Manipulator. If you spend at least 1 minute observing or interacting with another creature outside combat, you can learn certain information about its capabilities compared to your own. The DM tells you if the creature is equal, superior, or inferior in regard to 2 of the following characteristics of your choice: intelligence score, wisdom score, charisma score, class levels, if any. At the DM's option, you might also realize you know a piece of the creature's history or one of its personality traits if it has any. This is very, very important for understanding who you are as a mastermind. This is more beneficial to your spellcasters than anything else. Because if you know their wisdom modifier is higher than lower than yours, and say you're rocking at like a 14 or a 16 or something along those lines, now they know if you're better equipped to resist certain types of spells, charms, things like that. Again, in a roleplay heavy campaign, this is more impactful, because you will be speaking to them for long periods of time, and you will probably have to really work in whether or not you're going to fight somebody or something, and that comes out to your understanding and what you're doing as a team. This benefits you because you know the wisdom, so any illusions, charms, and fears. You know the charisma, so there's a couple of saves that involve charisma, not too many, and you know their intelligence score, their overall intelligence, which is great for certain spells. Again, this comes down to knowing your party and taking that role of leadership, because you'll be able to understand this by talking and seeing whatever's going on. And if you relay that information to the proper teammates, they might go, okay, well, this is good, because now I can lean towards doing some of these things, and might be easier to disable certain people as opposed to others. And there's no limit to how many times you can do this. So you spend a few minutes doing this, and you might learn at least 3 or 4 people whether their weaknesses are, or they have strengths in certain things, or you know certain things are better to be avoided. Class levels is very, very specific. A lot of DMs really have to have characters built that way. If you're playing a campaign with a lot of role playing and you're going kind of a specific route, having a lot of humanoid characters will put in class levels, like a level-in fighter or something, just to give them that extra something. I know a lot of DMs have done that. I've seen that on WebDM, where they suggest taking a couple levels and whatever to boost up your monsters. So it's very particular to the type of DM you have. So knowing your DM, you'll know whether or not that's beneficial as opposed to any other one. Again, you get to pick 2, so it's really not that bad. Knowing the personality trait, this is really something that's very beneficial for a DM and a player that's very used to playing heavy role-playing campaigns, because big important characters, big important NPCs, knowing if they have a flaw will change your whole trajectory on how you interact with them. You might play towards that, and you might dangle that flaw in front of them. You might force them to take actions because it'll benefit you to do so. It's a great trick to kind of pull your players into doing certain things if you let them know this little bit about that kind of a character. And it works out really well because, you know, you get ambitious players and they really want to chase after something, and they know this person has a flaw about, you know, not being able to resist gold or something like that, and now you can pull them into doing something crazy because you'll give them the promise of gold, and that changes the dynamics. It puts a little bit of power into the player's hands. These kinds of abilities, role-playing abilities, social interaction abilities, there's a certain level of confidence you need in your character and a certain level of suicidal tendencies to just risk it all. So feel free to use those sorts of things. Again, this is why I say it's a role-play heavy campaign type of subclass. At 13th level, you gain access to misdirection. You can sometimes cause another creature to suffer an attack meant for you. When you are targeted by an attack while a creature within 5 feet of you is granting you cover against that attack, you can use your reaction to have the attack target that creature instead of you. Understand, Jeremy Crawford did state that all creatures will cause half cover for you if they're in between you and whatever's attacking you at range. That is his depicted ruling. There is a Twitter with him saying that exactly, which makes this ability significantly more viable, especially if you get rushed and you happen to be in a scenario where you're getting now targeted. Understand a smarter creature would want to target you because of your other ability to give other people help and direct attacks. A smart enemy will realize your importance to the team and would want to isolate you and take you out of the fight as fast as possible. In a scenario where you are fighting something and say they cast Scorching Ray or something like that, throw this in front of one of them and try and use that creature to take the damage. It's extremely viable, though it's one of those things that it's an oh no kind of a scenario. Like, yeah, completely dodging the attack is great, but it does take your reaction. So if you do get hit with something else, you cannot get half damage from that. But dodging an attack as opposed to half damage is significantly better. That being said, definitely talk to your DM because cover rules and things like that are kind of a little DM dependent, because if you're shooting through your friends and hitting the enemy, then you're not playing with those cover rules, because it works both ways and it's not just player benefit. It also has to benefit the entire combat. So clear that up, and definitely try and clear that up right away from the beginning. At 17th level, you gain access to Soul of Deceit. Your thoughts can't be read by telepathy or other means unless you allow it. You can present false thoughts by making a charisma deception check contested by the mind reader's wisdom insight check. Additionally, no matter what you say, the magic that would determine if you are telling the truth indicates that you are being truthful, if you so choose, and you can't be compelled to tell the truth by magic. This is again extremely dependent on what game you're playing. Heavy RP, this is crucial. If you're meeting a deity and you need to lie about something that went the wrong way, this is how you do it. This is your only chance of doing it. Magic will depict whether you're telling the truth or not. It's only valuable in social scenarios or social encounters. So don't be too freaked out if you're not getting extra damage or anything like that at such a high level. You're really playing this subclass for what you can do socially and with adventuring. This is really built that way specifically for those kinds of campaigns. I like to envision a noble that works as a rogue, some sort of tactician or something like that, and is always scheming against his other counterparts. And I think that works really, really well here, and I think that's what really brings that rogue to the forefront. And I like that idea of being distant and staying back. I also like the idea of throwing knives the entire time and not using crossbows. But that being said, understanding your campaign is really what's going to make the best out of this. Being able to lie and not have your thoughts read. If you're fighting high level things, you're running into illithids and things that are going to be reading your mind and speaking telepathy to you, you're now something that can combat that. that can't be talked to, that can be truthful without being forced to, and can lie and get through things when you have to. Our final thoughts. The Mastermind Rogue is really, in our opinion, geared towards roleplay. If you want to play that kind of a character that really has this great depiction of understanding, analyzing people, and trying to manipulate combat by trying to direct and lead, this is a subclass that really does that very well. I feel like the Rogue is more capable of having subclasses that can do this because of the way the Rogue is built, with being very proficient in a lot of different skills and being able to have sneak attack and hide and stay hidden and use things like hide and make surprise attacks and things like that more valuable to you. It works because you're not super needed for doing anything drastically different outside of just your regular attack and hide, but it gives you a purpose to be more face, to be more interactive, to use your rogue abilities to get into somewhere by being confident, brave, and manipulative. And I like that. It gives you the tools to do so, and it gives you this great feeling of, I'm more than just a damage type. I'm more than just a thief. I'm more than just a treasure hunter. I'm someone who's of a higher class, of a character, of nobility, of stature, of birthright. And I can do these things. And I can lead. And I can have this prominent feeling. Not often does the rogue lead the party, but this is one of those subclasses that you really could. And fill that role. And I think that's great because rogues don't ever really get to do that. So really dig into that. I would lean towards that. I would try and build a hero as opposed to just a normal character and try and gravitate towards that and maybe make them good. It works. Being manipulative is fun and you can take some wild, chaotic interest with that. But ultimately, if you're going to play a combat heavy campaign or something that's even 50-50, you're not going to have as much fun with this as you would some of the other rogue subclasses. That being said, if you made it all the way through, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. Please keep commenting. We love to hear about you. We love to hear about some of the things you're playing, some of the characters you're playing, some of the things you're thinking about doing. And it's great to hear from you guys and communicate. It really what makes this so much fun to do. And above all, thanks for giving a Spooky Kid a chance.